Snaking its way through the countryside of Southern Virginia, this beautiful 3.2-mile strip of asphalt has been around since 1957. But now, for the second time in 3 years, the Virginia International Raceway is home to the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. Welcome back to Virginia International Raceway for the 49th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. And as you can see from the live camera shots, it is wet here at Virginia International Raceway. And we've had some wet races already this morning. We're into our first afternoon of racing. My name's John Phipp, and I'll be giving you the play-by-play commentary. I'm seated alongside Tom O'Gorman. Tomo, great to have you back with us.
Great to be back for E-Production, but before we get there, check out those trees. We have been in kind of a lull with the weather so far this morning. It's been a little bit on and off with the rain, but things are definitely getting blustery here as we're anticipating much more significant rainfall for the afternoon. And there's our Polesitter trying to hide from it a little bit.
Yeah, Jesse Prather sitting there under the umbrella trying to stay as dry as possible in that open cockpit car. But E-Production is what we're about here. We've got 17 cars on the starting grid as we're getting ready to send these drivers out. And interestingly, this is our biggest field of the day so far. Of course, the next race will eclipse that by a whole bunch as we've got 46 Spec Racer 43s coming up in about an hour or so. But nonetheless, E-Production, always a closely contested race. By the production classes, I must say, are my personal favorites because I'm showing my age. These are cars that I remember when I was a kid.
Well, it's not just you. I love these as well. And when I was a kid, I used to want to drive these cars on the street because I think there's nothing quite like a production-looking race car. And it's a production-based chassis, but you basically build a race engine, you put all the race car parts on it, and you make it into a race car as best you can. A cool variety, and this is the fastest of them in the production category. E-Production coming at you for a national championship.
Exactly right. As there's E-Production, used to be A, B, and C production. Those are long since gone. We'll have H production a little later on, which is the smallest engines. And but these production classes are always entertaining, and I look forward to this one coming up for sure. As we've got, let's see, just one former champion in the field, and that's our Polesitter, Jesse Prather, a 5-time and defending champion. But the boots on the ground are the third member of our broadcast team, and he's got the scoop. It's Hayward Wagner. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hayward needs a little more time.
He didn't blow away, did he?
Yeah, I hope not. As the remnants of Hurricane Ian are bearing down on us after laying waste to a lot of Florida. It's taking a right turn and heading for the Carolina coast, and it will be with us by this time tomorrow. Now I think we've got Hayward Wagner down on the pit lane.
Guys, E-Production has a lot of variety year after year, but this is the first year I can remember without a front-wheel drive car on the grid, or at least not towards the front of it. These are all rear drive cars, a lot of BMWs, a couple of variants. One, most of these guys are running the Hoosier Radial Wet. Except for John Brakey, he is running the Goodyear bias ply. That tire should heat a little bit faster, it's a little bit wider. The other difference is that most of these cars are open. Jesse Prather said he prefers an open car in the rain. Nothing to fog up, nothing hard to see through. Tim Schroyer has a slightly different idea. He's got an ice scraper with some detailing blankets zip tied to it that he'll be using in case the windshield gets fogged.
That's great. Michael Lewis could have used that in the GT1 race that just concluded, as he had to retire because of visibility issues. So it's going to be a factor here. And Tomo, you've driven this race course in the wet. It's pretty tricky, and you've got to do a little experimentation to find out where the grip is.
It is tricky, and specifically for today, this is an early afternoon race. We've seen a whole morning's worth of racing, and it consistently is changing conditions with the amount of rainfall, the amount of drying, the amount of puddling, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a 40-minute race or 15 laps, whichever comes first. And there's a lot of variety that can happen just in the conditions while it's quote-unquote wet the whole time. It's not just one consistent condition. So the drivers have almost guaranteed been watching the races from this morning, but the track they're about to see is probably the driest it's been all day, and it could at any point start raining, and who knows, it could rain where we see on camera now and not at the other end of the track.
Exactly. This is kind of a long, oblong racetrack, and it can be raining in one spot and drier in the others. The other factor they're going to have to contend with is you can see the trees in the background around. Wind is going to be a factor here, as the winds are going to be picking up over the next several hours. As the field begins to roll away behind the safety car, let's introduce the 17-car starting grid for you. Starting alone in row number 9 is the 77 of Yuri Calazos out of Homestead, Florida, the Florida region, in his Mazda RX-7. In row 8 on the outside, the 47 of Donald Walsh, from the Susquehanna Valley region, also in an RX-7. The number 83 is Sam Halkias. He is one of the 2 former national champions in the field. He won his championship in 2009 at Road America in very similar conditions. So watch for Sam. He's great in the wet out of Westerville, Ohio, and the Ohio Valley region, in a Triumph TR6. Mark Webber, what a story he is in row 7 on the outside. The number 25 car out of St. Louis in the St. Louis region. He holds the record for number of starts in the runoffs history, 63. This would be his 64th start, and he's also entered later on this weekend. So if he's able to take the green flag in both those races, he'll have 65 starts, and he's one of only a handful of drivers who've competed at 9 of the 10 venues, as Mark in his Mazda Miata. Alongside him in row 7 is the 17 of Michael Cook out of the North Carolina region in an RX-7. In row 6, the 62 of Steve Shelton Jr. out of Estero, Florida, in the Central Florida region in an MX-5. A rookie making his first runoff start is the number 18 of James Lindenthal out of Morgantown, West Virginia, in the Northern Ohio Valley region in a Mazda RX-7. In row 5 is car 8, Don Tucker out of Memphis, Tennessee, in the Mid-South region in a Miata. Next to him, the 44 of Jeff Young out of Raleigh, North Carolina, the North Carolina region, in a Triumph TR8. In row 4, car 12, Joe Carr out of Petaluma, California, in the San Francisco region in a Miata. Alongside is the 30 of Steve Rose out of North Carolina, the Central Carolinas region, in a Mazda RX-7. Row 3 has the 06 of Doug Piner out of Hampstead, North Carolina, also the North Carolina region, in a BMW Z3 2.5 liter. Next to him is the 50 of Peter Norton out of Pelham, North Carolina, also the North Carolina region, well represented here, in his 2000 Lotus Caterham 7 America. In row 2, on the outside, car number 38, Tim Schreier out of Dubuque, Iowa, in the Great River region, in a BMW 325 IS, an E30. Next to him, John Brakey in the number 89 in another BMW Z3 2.5 liter. He's out of the Land O'Lakes region from Milwaukee. And now on the front row, on the outside, the number 95 of John Hainsworth out of Vineland, New Jersey, in the South Jersey region, in a Mazda RX-7, and the Polesitter, 5-time and defending champion of this class, the number 34 second-generation racer Jesse Prather out of Topeka, Kansas, in the Kansas region, in his 1999 BMW Z3 2.5 liter. He has had 5 poles, including the last 4 in a row. Jesse is Sports Car's pick to finish at the front. He had an eventful race here back in 2019, as he was well out in front, made a mistake late in the race, and it cost him the chance for a championship. So I think he's going to be especially focused here.
Yeah, that's the last time he didn't win. So he's actually won the last 2 years, going for the hat trick, but definitely wants some redemption. As we take a look for the number 8, Don Tucker, looks like some mechanical issues. We heard that car running rough in qualifying a couple days ago, so sad to see that car may not make the green flag.
Here's the track map. Tomo, take us around this circuit.
Well, we're looking at Sector 1, highlighted in red, of VIRginia International Raceway, a little over 3.5 miles long, but it's today in the wet. Watch that braking zone in Turn 1. If you're on the dry line, that tends to be very treacherous, as does Turns 4A and B. Very slick as they transition into the lower S's. Then the fast uphill S's. Not much of a rain line there. You may have to back off just a little bit, but they tend to be a pretty much straight shot here in these prod cars. Then the really tricky acceleration zone off of Turn 12. That's Oak Tree Corner onto the back straight. Critical in the wet and the dry to get a good run on the back straight. And then the last very, very challenging part of this circuit in the wet, Hog Pen down at turns 16 and 17.
Leading on to the front straightaway, and that's the end of a lap, as we've got now 16 cars with Don Tucker pulling off as they are coming down the roller coaster and entering the Hog Pen turn. You can see the blue and yellow striped Sunoco livery number 34 of our Polesitter, Jesse Prather, and that's John Hainsworth in the black RX-7 alongside, with the BMW of John Brakey and Tim Schreier right behind in row 2. As the safety car pulls into the pit lane, the field nicely formed. We've got a few stragglers trying to catch up to the back of the field as the starter looks them over. Again, 15 laps or 40 minutes. That's the plan for all the races here this weekend. As a wet Virginia International Raceway goes, and getting away quickly is Jesse Prather, but John Hainsworth going with him. As Prather goes to the outside, Hainsworth is going to fall in single file. The car coming around, making it 3 wide down into turn 1. This has been a danger spot all weekend long so far, as we've had cars spinning on this first turn. But so far, we're clean as the leaders single file out of turn 1, called the horseshoe, and making their way down to NASCAR Bend. Oh, and we do have a spinner indeed.
Yeah, it was Doug Piner was the first to challenge that dry braking zone. He made it through the braking zone, but didn't get down the acceleration, and is now a big lunge up the inside for Peter Norton. This is his first time ever racing on rain tires in that Caterham 7, and he's adapting to it quickly as Brackey dropping a little bit back. And the big charger from the front, as we watch all that action, is the number 12, Joe Carr, charging all the way up in the red Miata, number 12 to 3rd. Look at that charge.
Yeah, gosh, he started well back in the 4th row. So a good first lap. Again, with rain being the great equalizer, as another spinner, as the 62 of Steve Shelton Jr. goes around.
Oh, they're all doing the hokey pokey. I think some contact between the 17 and that MX-5, the light blue car. Missed the number, but the 17 displaced hood position on that car as well. Perhaps some contact as we saw some body parts flying. Everybody is going to continue. That's great to see.
Yeah, the 17 is Michael Cook, one of the North Carolina drivers. But look at the lead Jesse Prather has got already, as he is making his way up the climbing S's toward turn 10, the South Bend. And now he's up into the double apex right-hander.
Wow, and John
That is
Hainsworth has his hands full with Sam Carr. And the number 12 shows the nose of the apex of Oak Tree. It's going to compromise both of their exits. And we heard from Hayward off mic that the number 12 car is actually on some hand-grooved slick tires. You can make your own custom rain tires in this category if you want. That's paying off for Sam Carr, that we can tell right now.
Yeah, we'll see if those last for him, because basically getting temperature into these rain tires is key to making the grip. But Jesse Prather doing what he does, getting out and getting away from the rest of this field as he hits the roller coaster section, a 130-foot vertical drop in this section. It is much steeper than it appears on camera, as we've said many times. And he is coming down the roller coaster and into hog pen for the first time at speed is Jesse Prather. And looking clean as he comes onto the front straightaway. Jesse has driven this track in the wet, so he knows kind of what some of the rain lines are. Jesse, the son of Kent Prather, like I said, a second-generation racer, and he's a tuner of some repute. His work is in a lot of the cars in this field and in a lot of the other prod classes. Jesse does a great job preparing cars for other people as well as himself.
Yeah, looking to conquer VIR, as mentioned, really wants to get that national championship at this track, and he's very, very composed so far. Not a lot of drama for the number 34 Sunoco BMW, but this battle for second and now the battle for fourth as Peter Norton lunges for that dry, risky line around the outside of Tim Schreier in the E30 BMW. Schreier's going to give him the spot for a moment. You have to wonder, is he starting to have visibility problems?
Yeah, the Caterham, of course, with the open cockpit, it's going to be a little easier. All he's got to contend with is the visor on his helmet, and he makes it through NASCAR. And again, it's interesting to see the different lines these drivers are taking. As we said throughout the day, the rain line is frequently not the same line that you run in the dry, as these drivers will be looking for places where the track has not been scrubbed smooth by all the cars running through there. So you'll see cars taking a variety of lines, really experimenting and kind of seeing what they can find around the racetrack to find out where the grip is.
Experimenting for themselves and learning from each other. Every pass you make is a risk to teach the guy behind you what you were doing to catch him. So it's going to be really tricky. And here in production, we've seen a little bit of a displacement race, especially with a lot of these BMWs becoming kind of the car to pick, especially that 2.5 liter Z3. But here in the wet, displacement doesn't matter nearly as much. And that's where cars like the one we see on camera, the Caterham 7, or the the BMW, the Miata in third place with Joe Carr are definitely coming alive here as Doug Piner continuing to have some issues.
Yeah, he goes around again. That's his second spin so far. He's had that one there at turn number 1 where he got off into the grass but was able to get back going again as the car of Peter Norton looking strong. We've got a couple drivers who can clinch. Actually, Peter Norton is the only one who can clinch a super sweep. He would be our first super sweep winner. If he wins this race and Lindenhall finishes 6th or worse and Tucker finishes 3rd or worst, he could clinch a super sweep. Again, he's got to rely on some help, but is certainly not out of contention just yet as the number 12 car of Joe Carr. What a great start after being back in row number 4, finding his way up into 3rd spot. And let's see his lap time. We'll wait till he comes around next time. Wasn't quite as quick as John Hainsworth. As Hainsworth beginning to put some distance, but he needs to watch his mirrors. Peter Norton's coming.
He is coming quick, and then number 12 on camera there, Joe Carr, started that first half of lap, was really strong. I have to wonder if John Hainsworth looked up in his mirror at Oak Tree and kind of tacked her up a little bit, like, oh, I got to take some more risks because I'm getting run down. But then it is kind of this battle that's compressing for the bronze. Joe Carr, Peter Norton. And we heard Peter Norton has never driven on proper rain tires before, but he is from North Carolina, has driven VIR. If he's driven this track in the wet but never driven on rain tires, he's loving life right now because rain tires are a great cheat code in the wet.
Exactly right, and he is staying right with Joe Carr. Carr in that red Mazda Miata. And the Caterham, of course, very light, very nimble in dry track conditions. Wet track conditions, that should translate pretty well. It's a car that is pretty neutral in its handling. It isn't great aerodynamically, but they don't get to really high speeds in this kind of weather. So as we see Hainsworth, then the 12 of Carr, and then once again Peter Norton after taking over that fourth spot, and he looks to be one of the racier guys. Checking the lap times, he was almost 3 seconds quicker than Joe Carr on that last lap, but now he's in a situation where he's getting into the spray, and it's going to be a little tougher to run close.
Really cool to see on the camera shots, not only his hands, but his whole arm working the car through that open cockpit Caterham, not even any doors on that car. So it's awesome to see the driver really working, as the drivers are typically eclipsed by all of the cladding and all of the aerodynamic bits you can add here in production. His roll has been slowed just a little bit as Peter Norton's. He hasn't closed up quite on Joe Carr just yet, but catching and passing are very different things, as we always see. He's now basically there.
Exactly, he's caught him, and again, it indicates the handling superiority perhaps of that Caterham through the S's, the twisty bits, if you will. He's been able to close right on the back. Now we'll see if he's got the straight line speed. If he stays in the draft, he might be able to pop out in the run up to the roller coaster as he climbs the hill in this very undulating back straightaway. There he goes to driver's left.
Biggest you'll ever see a Miata look right here as they drag race into the braking zone. Norton later on the brakes, but this is risky. No ABS in either of these cars. Rolling up into roller coaster, and it looks like he's under control. Goes to third.
Indeed, he drifts it out right out to the gator's teeth, but keeps it under control. And now down the hill toward Hogpen. So a new third place runner, and it is Peter Norton as he supplants Joe Carr for that position. After passing Tim Schreier a lap ago, so he's picked up yet another one. As Jesse Prather continues to be imperious out in front. We'll get the interval as John Hainsworth comes across the line, almost 13 seconds after just 3 laps.
And it was 6 after just 1 lap, so that's really a strong start. Taking a look back and look at the 3-wide battle between the neon green BMW. He tries to sweep the outside, just tucks in behind what became our 3rd and 4th place cars, puts his foot down right around here. There's a quick puddle, goes for that loop. And we've also lost John Brackey somewhere. He's down in 6th now, but that white BMW, the number 89 car, was one of our podium contenders, and he seems to be quite uncomfortable with these conditions this morning, this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. John Brackey qualified up in 3rd spot, was one of Sports Car's pick to finish on the podium. Again, we see the 62 of Steve Shelton going around, followed by the 17 of Michael Cook as a little deeper in the pack. But now back to live action with Jesse Prather continuing his run at the front. And this is about the section of the track where he dropped a wheel off back in 2019 and ruined his opportunity to finish a championship. He was well out in front and just a little loss of concentration. And here comes our 2nd place runner, John Hainsworth, in the black RX-7. As we can see him working his way through that same section of track into South Bend, which sets up for the double apex Oak Tree Bend at the bottom end of this racetrack, the southern end of this racetrack.
Both drivers looking very smooth. It's looking good. You don't see a lot of hand motion, especially on acceleration onto the back straightaway. Unfortunately for John Hainsworth, Jesse Prather just kind of got there quicker, as they now are running very similar lap times, less than 2 seconds spread on the lap time last time through. So that first lap ended up being a very, very critical lap for Jesse Prather to get himself that comfort that he bought with that very, very strong opening lap.
We'll see if Hainsworth, as they kind of settle in and get a little temperature into these wet weather tires, we'll see if Hainsworth is going to be able to match the pace of Jesse Prather and hopefully perhaps run him down as we are working race lap number 4. Jesse will be completing the 4th racing lap when he comes across the stripe in just a few minutes' time. John Hainsworth, again, about 13 seconds behind at the end of lap 3. Peter Norton a further 7 seconds back. Norton will be the one to watch as well, as he's been looking quick. We'll see now that he's in clear air if he's able to close down on Hainsworth.
So quick, in fact, he has the session best, the race best sector 2 on this lap. That Caterham 7 is definitely swimming in these conditions in a good way. As we watch John Hainsworth continue, just there at the pop of the background was Jesse Prather. It is up to 15 seconds between the top 3. And there is Norton on quite the charge.
Yeah, not quite as quick. Yes, he was. He set a personal best and virtually identical lap time to John Hainsworth on that lap. So Peter Norton is stabilizing that gap. It was 7.6 seconds as they crossed the line. Joe Carr in the red number 12 in 4th. Tim Schreier in the 38, rounding out the top 5. John Brackey recovering after his tough start up into 6th spot. As we check his lap times, he's now kind of on the pace, lapping about the same pace as the cars around him. As we've got another spin, and that is our 4th place car, Joe Carr. As Carr goes around, but he had enough of an advantage over Tim Schreier. I don't think he's going to lose a place.
Won't lose the place just yet, but that might make it an interesting 3-car battle, as John Brackey has stayed right on the back, mostly on the back of Tim Schreier, all 3 cars there in shot. Schreier, one of the only cars with a proper windshield in this race, and he's kind of navigating the track by himself. But that battle, the red car and the 2 white BMWs, is for 4th position, and don't rule out James Lindenthal there in that teal RX-7. He stayed in touch nicely as well.
Lindenthal out of Morgantown, West Virginia, as we see Tim Schreier in that BMW 325 IS using the curbs coming up through the climbing S's. And that car trying to get sideways on him. You can see he's putting some steering correction into that car as he's looking for every bit of traction he can find.
No good way to avoid the dry line up those S's, and Schreier, you're right, really working the wheel up through there. I heard a story back when this car showed up. I think it was either Indy or Road America a couple years ago. I think he used to drive this car to college, and now it's his race car, however many years later. So a lot of history with that E30, as he's definitely catching up to perhaps a little bit of a rattled Joe Carr. Once you spin, that mental game comes into aspect, and you really have to be able to kind of forget that. As Greg Creamer said, the best asset for a race car driver, sometimes a short memory, but he seems to be a little rattled.
Schreier looking good, though, as he is closing down on Joe Carr. On the last lap, he was not as quick, but on this lap, he definitely is as quick or quicker, because that interval seems to be closing down.
Especially motivated by seeing your competitor have that little chink in the armor. He's trying to really catch up with that BMW. Looks like the visibility is still good as long as we can see his helmet in the windshield. Then he's doing all right. Hasn't reached for the ice scraper just yet, but look at the wiggle again. Little hydroplanes up the front straight, even at probably 80 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour, closing in on 100 now down this straightaway. Imagine highway speeds, what that hydroplane feels like under you. It's very scary, and these guys are racing for competition, and they have to just drive through it.
Yeah, racing for the gold, the silver, and the bronze medal. As John Brackey right there in the background as he is staying in position. John, a 3-time champion with 31 starts so far in his runoffs career. He won most recently at Road America in 2012.
Schreier picking up 9 seconds that lap with the spin from Joe Carr in the red Miata just in front. He just needs to kind of keep up that pace, keep the pressure on. Maybe he can inspire another mistake for the car just in front. But I think the gap to Schreier to Brackey there in the white Z4 is pretty static. Brackey was not quicker than either car in front of him last time through. So this field is still stringing out by little tenths and seconds here and there.
John Brackey from Milwaukee up in the Land O'Lakes region. But the battle between Schreier and Carr, the best one on the racetrack. And here comes Schreier. That BMW's got some grunt.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he is side by side through the climbing S's. You usually can't do that, but he is going to stay right there. Oh, some great driving from both of these drivers. You could put a cigarette paper between those two, showing great respect for one another. And it looks like Carr might get a nose ahead, but man, you don't see that in the dry and hardly ever in the wet.
No, neither one giving up, and Joe Carr was not having any of that. He just powered around the outside there to put the position back on Tim Schreier. But Schreier, I didn't notice how he got that big of a run. Maybe perhaps a missed gear or something for Joe Carr, but all of a sudden that BMW was just popped up right alongside, and that was some of the closest racing we will probably see all weekend. Spectacular, but look at the straight line speed again for that BMW, just kind of motoring him now.
Yeah, I think that may be the advantage. He's got a little more straight line speed as he pulls ahead, and he's going to duck in front as they make the run in this little dip and then back up the hill toward the roller coaster.
Perhaps say an A for that push that you got in the S's. I'm going to spray you, pulling back in front to kind of shoot that water back up, and that's brought John Brackey right back into this battle.
Exactly. As those two going side by side, Brackey with a big grin under his crash helmet, realizing that that's an opportunity for him to close up this gap. So he is now making this a three-way battle for fourth, fifth, and sixth.
Whoa, scary moment for our leader, Jesse Prather, just barely dodging a lapped vehicle. The 47 of Don Walsh goes for a little ride in NASCAR. This is turn 3, pulls back on just in front of Yuri Koyazos, but gets it going again. But Prather maybe dodged a bullet there.
Sure did. As we're going to see if there's a little payback here. Is Joe Carr going to try to get back around Schreier, and heavy on the brakes at turn 1, the horseshoe. He stuffs it in there.
Flirting with that dry line, though, you have to be very careful moving to driver's left. Coming into that shot, you can see putting power down the Miata dancing, the BMW dancing, and they're still side by side through 2 into 3.
Best racing we've seen so far today between these two. They have just really been hammering on each other, and again, racing clean. There's been no contact. Schreier's going to maybe stuff it down in 4. No, he doesn't do it. Falls back in single file. Meanwhile, Brackey lurking there to pick up the pieces if these two come to tears.
Well, Schreier knows he got a great run through this section last time. Maybe if he backs off, just gives himself somewhere to go with it, perhaps he can pull it off again. But I doubt either of them really want to go side by side through the S's again, if they can help it. Ooh, big slide for Brackey, just trying to keep up with these guys at this point.
Great battle for 4th spot, but as we get into the second half of this race, let's just take a moment and thank some of the sponsors that make this broadcast possible, as we'll be back with you for the 59th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs.
Focus, guys. We're in a race to the finish, okay?
Here's where the rubber meets the road.
Have these initiatives moved the needle, like, at all?
Well, let's shift gears a minute.
We're really kind of at the apex here.
We need to put the pedal to the metal. We need to nail those hairpin turns, cross that finish line, and take that checkered flag. Woo!
Hit the track with the world's largest motorsports calendar, track day insurance, and more. Haggerty. Let's drive together.
Introducing the first ever Mazda CX-50.
Welcome back to the E-Production National Championship for 2022 here at VIRginia International Raceway. And that is the car of our leader, Jesse Prather, leading from the pole and has not looked back. He's built up a 22-second lead as we are at about half distance of this one, working race lap number 8 of the scheduled 15. We're also about 18 minutes into the 40-minute time limit. As Doug Piner has gone a lap down, Piner's had an eventful day, a couple spins that we've seen on camera at least, and that puts him back in 13th position.
Kind of watching some lap times. Very interesting to see Prather and Hainsworth running first and second, both about 3 seconds to 5 seconds off pace from where they were a couple laps ago. Have to wonder here in our comfortable broadcast booth, we don't notice the weather change, but these guys definitely do. Perhaps getting a little bit wetter out there, or maybe just getting a little more comfortable knowing he doesn't need to push the limits nearly as much. The car's still looking so composed. We've seen little wiggles from everybody else pretty much in this race, but Prather, solid hands on the exit of Oak Tree and just nice clean exits, apexes, all of it is looking really clean.
Yeah, that's Sam Halkias in the TR6 in the distance there, and he'll be the next driver that Jesse Prather will attempt to put up. The guy I'm watching is Peter Norton in that Caterham, as he was about 2 seconds a lap faster than John Hainsworth on that last lap. And Ainsworth is now in danger here. Just as it looked like Ainsworth might have a comfortable lead, Norton and Carr have run him down.
Well, that's actually Mark Webber in the 25 is getting lapped.
I'm so sorry. My bad.
One of the I thought the same thing. I lied forward. Where did Carr come from? But it's actually a lapped car. Peter Norton is definitely closer. One of the fastest cars on track. Actually, fastest lap time last time through of the entire field. So this battle for second is heating up big time, and John Ainsworth is going to be seeing that little yellow speck get ever so slightly bigger in those rearview mirrors.
Ainsworth makes his way down the roller coaster as he works his way through turns 15 and 16. Turn 17 is the final turn, Hog Pen, so named for the hog pen that used to live off to driver's left there at the exit of that turn. But here comes Peter Norton in that Lotus Caterham. Actually, that's a oxymoron. I don't believe it is a Lotus Caterham. It's just a Caterham.
Sure.
But it's basically a Lotus 7.
So cool to see this charge from 5th on the grid up to 3rd. Now really pressuring as far as the racing goes. This is pressure for John Ainsworth. He's going to be seeing that car getting closer and closer. And this driver, again, pretty local, knows this track very, very well. We've heard this is among the first time, if not the first time, on rain tires, and he's putting them to perfect use. And that's the other car that looks very composed. You can tell he's pushing it hard. You can tell the body is transferring weight from corner to corner, but he's never making big slips. And that's caused him to be now basically the fastest car on track by a couple seconds last time through.
Yeah, exactly right. In fact, as we look at the fast laps turned over the course of the race, he is second quick only to Jesse Prather. His best lap was his last, Norton that is. His best lap was his last, a 2:31.8. Prather's best lap, a 2:30.8. So Peter Norton basically is racing at the same pace as our leader as we go back to this great battle between Joe Carr and Tim Schreier. Schreier goes a little wide, thought about trying to go around the outside, but Carr threw a bit of a block as they come through left hook and now into the snake, the lower S's here at VIRginia International Raceway.
Truly epic battle. Look at the momentum the Miata carries through turns 6A and B, but Schreier puts the foot down and there's a lot of pressure. Are they going to do side by side through here again? He looks.
There he comes. Here they go into the climbing S's side by side once again, but he falls back single file. I think it was maybe a little scary the last time he tried that.
I think so, but Joe Carr has really shown he's the one willing to take those battles. He's made the moves. He's let the cars stay side by side where other cars are lifting, and you see Schreier lifted out that time. That means Joe Carr is more confident in what his car is doing with those handmade rain tires than the other cars on the production tires that you and I could go buy.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, here comes the battle for second. It is Peter Norton, and he has caught John Ainsworth about 2 car lengths the interval as they plunge down the roller coaster. So Norton is right there looking for the middle step on the podium. Jesse Prather's about 20 seconds up the road in the lead. But this is the battle for the final 2 steps on the podium as they come down the hill into Hog Pen once again. We are working race lap number 9, actually working race lap number 10 as Jesse Prather's already crossed the line. These drivers will be completing their 9th lap.
So a pair of epic battles on track. This one's for second, the other for 4th. And as predicted, or as forecasted, the rain is visibly picked up on track. You can see it pouring down the front straight. Spray has picked up as well. Peter Norton looks up the inside, whether it's for visibility or grip. He's absolutely there. John Ainsworth, no head movement. He probably looks nice and calm, but slips a little bit wide. Norton looks to the inside just a little bit. Can he get the pedal down? No, still no overlap.
I would think on a dry track, Ainsworth RX-7 should have a little more straight line speed, a little more horsepower than that Caterham. But again, on a wet track, that basically erases that horsepower advantage, and it's all about handling. That's the first time I've seen Norton get sideways, and he did it because he wants to dive to the inside at the left hook, and he gets it done. Ainsworth gives him room. Norton up to second. Now can Ainsworth do the over-under and get back? He can't at this stage. Into the snake they come, and this is the section of track where Norton is extremely strong. As we saw him run down Joe Carr through this the S's here previously, and I think he might just be able to march away from John Ainsworth.
I think he will. This is his best sector on the track. He's the fastest car of anybody in this sector, in fact, in this entire race. So Peter Norton is going to start to put his head down and charge forward, and that was a classic textbook over-under, backed off just a little bit for turn 3, knifed underneath into turn 4. As now we're going to move back to that other great battle for fourth. Joe Carr and Tim Schreier separated by 0.3 of a second at the line last time through. That is a lapped car of Mark Webber, but the red Miata just behind with the black headlights is the one we're looking for, and he still has just a couple of car lengths over Tim Schreier.
Mark Webber climbing the S's, again making his 64th runoff start in this race. He has basically vowed that he wants to make his 70th runoff start on his 70th birthday in a couple years' time. So Mark Webber, a longtime SCCA photographer, but now a private citizen, and being a good gentleman, letting these drivers come through. As the 12 of Joe Carr in fourth spot. And there is the only sedan in the field, Tim Schreier in that BMW.
Going to have to keep an eye on trap speeds this time through to see what that true difference is between the 1.8 liter Miata and that E30 BMW with the 6-cylinder engine in it. Easily motors past Mark Webber, but Webber's got a little motor in that car, keeping right up with him.
Oh, yeah.
As he races him down the back straightaway, deep into the braking zone now. And John Brackey is the next car to have to navigate that traffic. Schreier is clearly less comfortable in the corners, but has a bit more straight line speed. That lap through, it was a little hindered by Webber. I think they were about even. But we keep seeing this ebb and flow, but Carr is starting to pull out.
Working their way down the hill now as they come into Hog Pen once again, working race lap 11. As we're getting into the closing stages here, Jesse Prather with a reasonably comfortable 22-second lead. John Hainsworth back into second spot, and he is about 26 seconds behind our leader. The interval between Hainsworth and Norton staying right at about 3 seconds. And then this battle just behind Joe Carr in the red Miata with the BMW of Tim Schreier right behind. And this one is going to go right down to the wire. It's a shame that it's not for a podium spot since they put on such a fantastic battle.
Well, it's not over till it's over. We've seen that evaporate from people's grasps up to the last corner in this weekend so far. But Joe Carr seems to really have been finding his comfort out there. He's fastest personally in sector 1 and 3 last time through on that lap. So even with the lap traffic, he was able to put in one of his fastest laps of the entire race. However, Tim Schreier is doing the same thing right behind. They're lapping within a half a second of one another.
Three-time champion John Brackey doing his best to keep up with these drivers, but John clearly not quite as comfortable in these conditions and hasn't been able to mount much of a challenge of these two up in front. Doug Piner in that green BMW just coming out of the shot is a lapped car, as these drivers will be putting him a lap down. Piner's back in 12th position right now.
Oh, big wiggle for 89 or 38 of Tim Schreier that time through. And again, I just think back to the last time you hydroplaned on the highway at 60 to 70 miles an hour. That just happened at about 90 miles an hour through a corner to Tim Schreier. It's just so intense out there. Whether you're racing or not, these conditions are wild.
Exactly. Quick hands, obviously, saved that one. We've got some traffic to contend with. Again, Piner up in front there. As this three-way battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th in the closing stages of this one.
Next car in front of Piner is actually Sam Halkias. You mentioned how good he is in the rain.
Right.
One of our lower qualifying cars down in the 15th position, I believe. But he's raced his way up to 11th in that what is probably the oldest car in the field, that
TR6?
1975 TR6.
Oh, easily, yeah.
We'll see that car get lapped here in just a moment. But a shout out to Halkias for a great drive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, big slide for Carr. Went to the apex of the roller coaster, and the car just snapped sideways on him, and you can see it's brought Schreier right back in there, and Brackey's coming too. This is getting hot.
Exactly. Brackey, a wily competitor. Again, he is. This isn't his first rodeo, as he has been here 31 times prior to this, so he is certainly realizing that he's still got about 3 laps to get this done. And he may just be biding his time. With Piner out in front, he's going to wave these two by. See if Brackey can get by Piner as well before we get it. There's Sam Halkias disappearing in the foreground.
Joe Carr way more confident on the brakes. It looks down into turn 1. You can actually see the weight of the car dive forward. Also setup-wise, that looks like the car is a little bit softer for this race, where Tim Schreier's car looks a little less forgiving. When he goes sideways, you can tell there's a lot of panic that happens. Oh, I got to get it back. Whereas Carr is able to kind of lean into the yaw of the car just a little bit more. And I think that's what's allowing him to maybe get away with those little slips and slides. But Schreier is really on top of him now.
with the BMW, probably with a little higher center of gravity. He's probably got it a little more stiffly sprung, so it's not quite as forgiving in these conditions. As in dry track conditions, he would be really leaning that sucker over if he had it set up too softly.
And as close as Brackey was getting down the back straight, he has lost all that ground yet again. Going to be an awkward exchange for lap traffic right in this single file section of track. Well, single file if you're not Joe Carr or Tim Schreier. They're comfortable going side by side clearly. So Carr's going to show the nose, goes up the inside into South Bend. Schreier's going to go with him. Not the preferred line, but they make it work. I don't think either of them lost too much time. Schreier was a little compromised, but now Brackey's a lot closer.
Sam Halkias giving him the point as they work their way up into the Oak Tree Bend. Right out to the outside is Joe Carr going a little wide, and look at that BMW get sideways. It's Tom Schreier chasing it. As he is throwing everything he's got at it to try to find a way back around that Miata. And he's got a good run this time as they climb the hill here. The extra grunt of that 2.5 liter 6 is probably paying some dividends here. But at the very top end, I think the aerodynamics of the Miata begin to come back into an advantage, and that big box of a BMW can't push it through the air quite as well.
And again on the braking, the Miata just a little bit better in the braking zone. Keeps it under control this time through the roller coaster down into Hog Pen. And you can tell as soon as they have to turn the wheel, the Miata just comes alive just a little bit more. Ooh, little slide for Schreier at the apex of Hog Pen, but keeps it under control. That's a pretty good exit this time.
Yep. That's going to cost him some speed at the end of this straightaway, as when you screw up a turn coming onto a straightaway, you really pay the price when you get to the end, as a lot of that velocity goes away. Here comes Schreier to the inside. The foreshortening of the lens makes it look like he's a little closer than he really is, but it's still only a half a dozen car lengths. Our leader, Jesse Prather, working race lap number 13. Oh, big slide for Schreier.
Great save, though.
You bet. Good hands.
And that's that forgiveness we're talking about. That car looks much less forgiving when it does lose grip for whatever reason, whether it's the tire or the chassis. It's just not as happy. And I was also going to point out down the front straight, the spray. You can see it just blowing off to the driver's right there. But watch this. He gets to the apex, starts to pick the throttle up. Whoa, big slide.
That's 45 degrees right there. He got it pretty much sideways. But he's hanging right in there, you know, not letting it rattle him. John Brackey just lurking there as he has all race long. It just makes me wonder if he's holding something in reserve for these last couple of laps, but he's running out of time. If he's got a card to play, he better start playing it.
Up at the front, Jesse Prather still leading, but Peter Norton continues to be the fastest car on track, running there in second, has checked out from John Hainsworth in third. We've been watching this battle for fourth, fifth, and sixth, and you can see just from our camera lenses how much worse the weather has gotten over this race. And it seems a couple of drivers have dealt with it well. Peter Norton, Joe Carr. Some drivers have really struggled with the conditions.
Speaking of Peter Norton, there he is in the yellow Caterham, as he works his way down the roller coaster. He's closed the interval to Jesse Prather, the leader, down to about 19 seconds. It was well over 20 when he finally passed John Hainsworth to get up into second. So he is lapping quicker than the leader, but not quicker enough to make up that 19-second deficit with only a couple laps to go.
Look at those elbows shimmy in that car as he's just working the wheel, just keeping the car pointed the right direction, accelerating and being efficient in the right direction, but constant corrections as there is your leader, pouring with rain as he works his way into turn 3 here at VIR.
Yeah, talk about smooth. This guy is just velvet. I mean, I've watched him race many times. He's obviously had a great deal of success. He was a Miata driver for many years, and then made the move to the BMW. It's been a handful of years ago, and he has just refined and refined and refined this car until it is just about unassailable. The only thing that beats him is a mistake, basically, on his part, as Jesse has really done a great job with it. And we are working race lap 14, so the white flag will be in the air next time by. Man, the visibility is really getting dodgy, as you can see it on our camera lens.
We say that, but Jesse Prather just set the fastest Sector 1 of the entire race last time through. So maybe the weather's getting worse, and maybe Jesse Prather doesn't care.
Here's the battle for fourth once again. As Tim Schreier all over the back of Joe Carr. John Brackey right there.
Oh, Carr, another slide. You saw the hands just shimmying on the wheel, and Schreier closes right up, goes to the inside, not willing to outbrake Joe Carr, though, in this very much Miata section of track, but he knows he can get a good run. Just stay this close.
Here they come onto the snake, under the bridge. And then into the climbing S's, where Schreier has challenged all race long. In fact, going side by side with Joe Carr through that section at an earlier stage of the race. So here they are, nose to tail.
If nothing else, the 5th place drive is probably the hardest driven for Tim Schreier. You can just tell how much more work he's doing to keep that car in contact with Joe Carr.
Yep.
And it's a couple key spots on the track that it's happening. As you see now, Joe Carr able to pull away quite a bit through those higher speed sections, much more confidently rolls the speed into Oak Tree, where Tim Schreier has been a little bit more cautious on entry, but as soon as he gets his foot down nice and clean, keeps the energy going forward.
Yep. Jesse Prather coming to the white flag, as he will be completing a lap 14. He crosses the starter's stand, setting off for his final lap. And I'm sure he's thinking deja vu all over again. Just make it around 3.27 more miles here.
That's going to mean one more lap for this battle to figure out who comes out on top. This is the battle for 4th, Joe Carr in the red Miata. Tim Schreier in the white BMW, and don't forget John Brackey is still kind of lurking there in the Z3 convertible in the background.
You know, I'd have to give Schreier credit because he has done one of the things that you try to do in situations like this is try to pressure the guy in front of you to make a mistake. That's really all you're looking for, is for Joe Carr to get one of those slides a little more out of control and give him an opportunity. But Carr has been cool, calm, and collected despite getting that car kind of sideways on more than one occasion.
Sure.
And he's withstood the pressure. And now all he's got to do is maintain this pace for one more lap, and he has got a 4th place finish coming up.
I would say driving in the rain is 80% confidence and 20% tires, and it seems like they're both equally confident. They got that first 80%, but I would say as we see another little wiggle as Schreier enters frame, that last 20% I would say is kind of swing towards Joe Carr's favor with just a little bit more composure in that Miata.
And I would add another issue would be just staying connected to the car. The 77 of Yuri Colazos going around. Look at the rain come down. It is definitely coming down harder out there for sure, as we can see the raindrops on the camera shot. As this will be the last opportunity for Tim Schreier, as John Brackey has conceded his part of this battle, so it looks like 6th will be the best he'll do unless these two come to tears. But here comes Schreier in a section of the track that he's been pretty strong in. You would think the Miata would be more nimble, but Schreier fearless up through the climbing S's. Big spray coming off the lead car as they work their way through South Bend and then head for Oak Tree for the final time at speed. Meanwhile, Jesse Prather far enough ahead that as they're entering Oak Tree, he's entering the hog pen. And coming on to the front straightaway, this will be championship number 6 for Jesse Prather as he smoothly puts the power down and makes his way to the checkered flag. Jesse Prather, lights to lights, flag to flag. No challenge for the Kansas driver as he will take his 6th national championship.
Well, certainly no challenge for any other driver, but a challenging race nonetheless. And redemption at VIR for Jesse Prather. Here comes 2nd place. I would say one of the drives of the race. Peter Norton comes home 2nd in that Caterham 7. A beautiful effort to come from 5th on the grid up to 2nd. The fastest car on track for a majority of this race after passing this man right here. John Hainsworth comes home in 3rd.
John Hainsworth out of the South Jersey region. Ran in 2nd for much of the race, but Peter Norton just had too much pace under these conditions. And we've had a change. Schreier has found a way around Joe Carr.
It's a drag race.
Here they come to the line.
Carr
this
has
could be
the
side
exit.
by side. Here they come. Is Carr going to get to the inside? Schreier's got a little more straight line speed. Coming to the line, Schreier gets it done, taking 4th on the final lap.
Wow, disappointed we missed how that happened, but It has to have been down the back straight. Perhaps we have a replay or something, but Joe Carr, after running confidently in that 4th position for a majority of the race, Tim Schreier, was he waiting for his last opportunity? Has he been waiting for that the entire race and we didn't know? He gets it done to 4th, an epic drive.
Yeah, John Brackey comes home in 6th. James Lindenhall should be the 7th place. He has not yet come across the line. But what a great battle these drivers put on all race long. Again, it's a shame it's not for a medal, but still a nice job for Tim Schreier to take it on the final lap, the final half a lap over Joe Carr. Schreier started in 4th, and that's where he ended up. As once again, we see our winner, Jesse Prather, saluting the corner workers who we should definitely acknowledge, standing out in the wet all weekend long. They're volunteers, one and all. The Angels in White, the guys and gals that we could not do the racing without, and we thank them for all their hard work. As Jesse Prather takes the win, Peter Norton in 2nd. John Hainsworth comes home in the 3rd spot for the bronze medal. Tim Schreier on the final lap up to 4th. Joe Carr 5th. John Brackey comes home in 6th spot. James Lindenhall in 7th in the RX-7. Steve Shelton, number 62, comes home in 8th. 9th to Michael Cook, and the 10th place spot goes to Steve Rose.
To give you an idea of how that pass probably materialized, Tim Schreier dug deep and set his best sector 2, leading onto the back straight for that pass to materialize down the back straight into that final sector. Those two had the most fantastic race. So glad that we got to watch it and tune in and enjoy what they were able to enjoy on track. But Schreier to pull out that on the very last lap, I'd love to stop him on pit lane and ask him, did you wait for that or did it just come to you? How deep did you have to dig for that to really pull that out? Those guys just put on a show.
Yeah, he had his fastest trap speed on that last lap too.
Yeah.
So as Jesse Prather coming down the roller coaster on his cool down lap, as the top 3 finishers will make their way into pit lane. Standing by is our pit reporter, Hayward Wagner, and he will have the interviews of our top 3 as Jesse Prather leads Peter Norton down the hill. A couple lapped cars, and then John Hainsworth in that black RX-7 will round out the podium for the medals. Splashing their way onto the pit lane. You can see some areas of the track where water runs down and across the track, and those little bits of standing water will only get worse as the rain continues. And that makes it tricky. Even with the rain tires, these cars will aquaplane in more than just about 1/8 of an inch of water. As the rest of the field working its way down, Tim Schreier, Joe Carr right there in your camera shot. As they will head back to the paddock, John Brackey, the 3-time champion, has to settle for 6th. But Jesse Prather rolls it to a stop. He's got to be familiar with this interview, as again, this is his 6th championship.
To see if he reaches for the medal or the umbrella first.
Exactly. Get some congratulations from the stewards and the crew standing by. Jesse will get his helmet off. His dad, Kent, no longer driving, but a national champion, multiple national champion in his own right. And the apple did not fall far from the tree, as we say. Jesse with a big smile on his face. I think that's CC giving him some congratulations and a bottle of water. As we get the Hoosier bandana on, sounds like Hayward Wagner's got our winner. Hayward?
Jesse, number 6. It looked like maybe VIR owed you one.
Well, certainly after the last time we were here, you know, my focus has been to try and win this one. The weather made it a little harder, but you know what? You've been around road racing long enough, you better know how to run in the rain, and you better figure it out, because it just throws everything out the door. You know, everything we ran all week doesn't matter in the rain. So, you know, the tires were so good and the brakes were so good. A lot of it has to do with my experience, you know, setting up a car for the rain. And I've had my fair share of issues in the rain in the past, and I've learned from those experiences, and that's what really helped me today.
You stepped away from driving for a couple years, focused on the business, focused on getting your customer cars to the front. You've now come back, put together a couple of championships. What's the satisfaction level for you in this kind of a drive?
Well, you know, kind of like I was mentioning, the rain kind of takes the car away. You know, over the past few years, some people have thought that maybe my car's been a little dominant, but I'd like to think of it as an entire package. You know, not that I'm a superior driver over a lot of other drivers, but I've got a lot of experience in the rain, and I've got a lot of experience behind cars, and I don't even know who finished second or third, but I hope everybody had a good race. Had one little tussle with a back marker. I guess he didn't see me coming, but it was a good race. I love racing in the rain.
Well, congratulations. You get to drive one more lap on this very damp track.
Number 6. Thank you.
Big thumbs up from Jesse Prather as he acknowledges a tough race, but he got the job done for his 6th national championship. We'll hear from Peter Norton and John Hainsworth as they get themselves into pit lane, and Hayward will have a chance to chat with them as well. Sounds like our second place finisher, Peter Norton, is with Hayward Wagner.
Peter, I think the question we all want to know the answer to is, how do you like driving on rain tires?
I had a blast. It was excellent.
So you may not know this, you turned some of the fastest laps of that race. You worked your way through the field, and this was the very first time on rain tires. Tell me what that all feels like.
Well, I've driven in the rain on slicks before, kind of wet, so I kind of knew what to expect, but I was surprised by how much grip I had. It was a lot better than I was expecting.
How many laps did it take you to figure it out?
I think I was really scared up until about lap 5, and then I was kind of on it.
Well, congratulations on the silver. We're going to get John to come on up, John Hainsworth. Join us up here, John. Started on the front row, ended up on the podium. Not a bad runoff given the conditions.
Nope, not at all. I knew that I had some work to do on my wet setup, and I knew Peter was coming with his light car here, so I was just out there running my pace. I knew I didn't have anything for Jesse after the first couple laps, and you know, once Peter was closing in on me, I got a couple bad breaks with traffic where I think at half the gap, and then you know, once I'm in his sights, you know, it was all over for me for second. But I tried to stick with him and put some pressure on him. But, you know, you're out there just running your own pace with the track, and that's what we did. So I'm happy.
Well, congratulations on the podium. Best news for you guys is you don't have to get back into the car. Jesse's out on a parade lap.
Thanks, Hayward. And well said by both Peter Norton and John Hainsworth. As Jesse Prather with a passenger aboard. As we get a few highlights from the race, this is the start. Prather in front, Hainsworth in the black RX-7. But watch for the lime green car in the background as he is going to go around. Here's this battle. Schreier in front in the early stages, but then Joe Carr able to get by him. There's Peter Norton, the eventual second place finisher. There's the three of them in a bunch.
Yeah, a lot of confidence from that red Miata on the first couple of corners. A little bit more action in the back of the pack, but no harm, no foul for most of these cars as they were all able to continue. And then this was the highlight of the race. Side by side through the entire uphill S's, Joe Carr and Tim Schreier leaving each other the perfect amount of respect, but nothing extra on the table. Joe Carr puts his foot down, and then this was the pass for second that allowed Peter Norton to take a silver position away from John Hainsworth.
And Hainsworth was very gracious in his interview. He said he knew once Norton got by that he could not match his pace. And this battle got even closer as the race wore on. There's a big slide from Tim Schreier, but he was able to save it. Jesse Prather brought it home for a win. Official margin of victory, 15.183 seconds. So that does it for E-Production for the 2022 edition, the 59th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. We've got lots more racing yet to come, so stay with us, and thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you down the road.
Why race? Because it's in our blood. A love of driving that pushes us as hard on the road as it does on the track. It's why we reinvented the Roadster and put a piece of it into every car we make. It's why we refine, rethink, and refine again. And it's why we'll always engineer to your heart's BPM, not simply an engine's RPM. Why race? Why